Element for reading in order. We'll start with roll call.
Edwards. Present. Hudson. Hall. Ms. Hall called in and said she would not be here this evening. Adams.
Present.
Clark. Kennard.
Present.
Childs.
Present.
Present.
Warren. And Jerry, you have a quorum.
Okay, first up on our agenda is to review our minutes from last week. They're on pages 2 and 3 of your packet. Does anyone have any comments or concerns?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, motion carried.
Warren.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Kennard.
Yeah.
Childs.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next up on our agenda is our communication.
And Chair, the only communications we have is from the Community Development Director, Alex Little. He reached out asking if this authority would consider quitclaiming its ownership of the former depot site to the city. And Mr. Little's here. I'm sure he'd be happy to address that item.
Yes, as you will recall, several meetings ago, we mentioned that that particular site right at the corner of Fifth and Water Street there next to the old fire station, that the city would like to take possession of that and use that for a location for our EV charging stations that we are still pursuing, getting the grant money and so forth to put those in. I think it's really key to our overall development in this area because we are sitting between Chicago, Kalamazoo, Detroit, traffic going up and down this way constantly all summer, going to different locations, Ludington, Traverse City, and here and all over. And they're going to need a place to stop and recharge his vehicles, and we want to be in that process. In addition, you've got right across the track there, the Harbor Shores, and every other year we've got international attention that goes on television and so forth. So it's a perfect part of our development plan, and we'd like to ask you to deed that to the city for $1 for that purpose.
Can we get that?
Okay, did anyone have any comments on the board? Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've had a lot of interest that hasn't taken shape as it relates to that property. And since this authority works for the city, with the city, to build its tax base, and everything will revert back to the city anyway, I think it's a perfect opportunity considering that it's gonna cost a lot of money to finish what needs to be done there. So for it to be like a parking lot, do we have an idea of how many stations and how much that would generate for the city?
We don't for sure as of yet because we're still in the process of trying to find out
Okay.
just exactly what we're
Okay.
doing.
But for me, it's a yay.
Is that a motion?
Oh,
I make a motion that
support.
we hold that property for the transfer of $1 to the rest.
Yes,
We have a motion by Edwards and supported by Adams.
Let's call for the question.
Warren.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Kennard. Childs.
Yes.
Motion carries. We will finish up the quitclaim deed on that and get Ms. Hall to sign off on that based on this board's action tonight. Thank you. We have no other communications that I'm aware of, I'm sure.
Okay, so the next part is our public comments. Do we have any public comments from the audience? No?
not from the audience. But if I may, Madam Chair, is this the time mark that you said that I could actually?
I think it would be best down under member comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to our committee reports. First up is our technical advisors contract. Do we have any updates on that?
Madam Chair and committee members, at the last meeting, you asked me to dust off the request for qualifications and price proposals that was submitted a few months back in hopes that a reposting of that document might generate greater interest. If we posted for a longer period of time and on a couple of different public access sites, like Indeed.com, LinkedIn, and a couple of others that the city clerk has access to, in addition to the city's website itself. I have prepared that. It was attached. It's included within your packets, that revision, and I'm giving a 2-month response period. So that would seem to me to be an ample period of time. With that in mind, however, I've had some preliminary discussions with Mr. Little on this subject, knowing it would be on the agenda tonight. And Madam Chair, I think he may have some comments on that.
Okay, Mr. Little.
If I might please. You are all aware of the Ox Creek project and how it's moving forward. We have a successful collaboration involving Eagle, DNR, University of Michigan, Corps of Engineers, Southwest Michigan Planning Commission, now the Drain Commissioners, Jonas, thank you. And this project is going to be a series of grants. You've already heard of a number of them. $3 million that we have that we're working on from HUD, the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration grant, and a number of others. Where we are now with this is that the NOAA grant, which was approved a couple of months ago, we included in there funding for a position for somebody to concentrate on helping me administer the Ox Creek project.
Yeah.
That's going to be someone with extensive environmental kind of knowledge, hydraulic knowledge, a lot of the same kind of background and knowledge.
Sean, I'm in a meeting right now. Let me call you back.
It occurs to me that if we
Okay, thank you.
went together, that we could actually pay even better to find a specialist that could serve both needs. And given that some things are occurring, like the bill that was just approved by the legislature and the governor, allowing brownfields to get into housing and so forth, and then that housing is part of our objective of down Ox Creek there. It just looks like a perfect opportunity for us to do some things together. I'd like to ask you to consider just sort of holding on this, if you would. We're going to be putting that advertisement out within the next week or so. And as we begin to get applicants and so forth on that, I'll keep you up to speed in terms of what we're getting and how it's going, and see if maybe we can't work out something where the person can do both. Service the needs of the Brownfield Authority and help with what we've got to get done in Ox Creek with that. The NOAA grant provides for 4-year funding to provide that position. And again, I think that with the requirements that we're going to have on that position and what you need here, it'd be perfect marriage.
Does anyone on the board have comments? We'll start with Ms. Kennard.
Okay, I'd like to ask, if this job, you wanted this person to serve in 2 capacities. That's what you're saying. Is it too much for that person to do, because overseen a lot of work here at Ox Creek and then performing in another capacity. Would that be too much on that person?
Well, in actuality, this is pretty much a part-time. This is not a full-time thing. I serve about 10 right now with what's going on. I got Ox Creek, I've got CDBG and the programs it has. I'm on EV charging stations. I'm after broadband, I'm after housing. So I'd be happy to have, I think they'd probably be a great thing just to have just those two things.
But what I'm saying is, that person's paid salary.
Yes.
For that person to serve in those two capacities, what would the salary look like for that person?
I would anticipate the salary would look probably close to mine, because we're looking for some real technical know-how and expertise. Not looking for a training. In fact, I wish Mark wasn't retired.
All right, Mr. Edwards.
Yes, so, if I'm understanding, so this would be sort of like a partnership with Brownfield, a direct partnership with Brownfield and the city. Which, in my opinion, it's sort of like opinion in question, which even puts more authority and maybe more action behind redevelopment in the city to have that collaboration or partnership. That being said, not only Ox Creek, but that go outside of the Ox Creek project, that partnership.
Absolutely, because along with the brownfield activity that we already do, brownfield activities probably going to come up related to both Ox Creek as well as the housing thing. We're also and expect to receive shortly a high water grant that's going to be looking at the resiliency issues associated with Ox Creek, Pawpaw River, St. Joe River, up and down the Riverview Drive, and so forth. They were flooding and that kind of thing. So this position will be right in the middle of all of this.
Thank you.
So my comments are, I feel like ideally, I would love if we could get a true replacement for Mark. The reason why I say that is, you said 4 years for the grant, so does that mean in 4 years we can start over, or really not 4, you have to really start over in 3, because it might take a year to find someone, or could this person stay on after that
Yeah,
4?
they could stay on after that. I'm sure there'll be.
Okay, because that would be my first concern, and then I guess from a standpoint of salary, we would work out a percentage of the city's going to be grant, and then a percent would be paid by Brownfield. But I like the piece about the environmental, because that's the piece who knows if you enjoy it or you don't. You know what I mean? So I do think that's great to have that person with that environmental experience. And then if the position will be filled in a few months, we still have overlap with Mark.
Yes.
So I like it overall. Again, my only concern is that portion. Anyone else on the board have comments? Commissioner Adams?
Thank you for bringing it up, Mr. Little. I'm very aware of the position you're talking about. And it actually does make sense. With what I know, the broader portion of the picture. I would, though, however, like to entertain the door that our co-chair here opened up with someone local training and learning in following Mark's footsteps to work alongside with the person that will take that position that we're trying to fill through the planning commission. So
That may not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean,
One doesn't
yeah.
preclude the other.
I mean, right. They're all working together for the good of the community. So, what do you think, Mark? Your chair.
I think it's great, I think it's a great idea to consider having one individual handling both projects because they are so interrelated. And not just that project alone, as
Yeah.
Mr. Edwards mentioned, but the
All,
outgrowths of all of the other brownfield projects that we have within the city. I also think it's possible if you didn't have one individual with the funding that is available from the likes of NOAA and the funding that you have available here, it's entirely possible that you might be able to get one senior level person and one junior level person to work in tandem
okay.
that could be trained up and have a complete succession opportunity going on. But I think the notion of tabling this matter for the time being until perhaps his RFP gets posted and he sees what types of responses come out would probably be a very good idea. It's not as though you're up against the deadline right now.
So through the chair, what would be, I mean, that's even more costly to put out an RFP instead of guiding your resources and people over to the one that's about to be published for this position.
Actually, if we find the kind of person with the skill set that we're looking for, so there'll be no need to those.
Okay, so we are still proceeding as we have already with our, we have our posting out there. And then we're gonna wait for follow-up from Mr. Little about the request for a person.
Yeah.
To go forward. So we're proceeding, the Brownfield Mark has already, he has our 60-day post already up, nothing's changing.
Just to be clear, Madam Chair, we have it, it's been drafted. It
Oh,
hasn't
it's been
been
drafted.
posted
Okay.
anywhere. I would not post it until this
Okay.
authority
Okay.
told me to do so.
Gotcha.
You needed to see it first.
And
So I think what's being suggested is that it not be posted at this time, but we hold it and find out what Mr. Little's responses are. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That's correct.
And I think that's a good idea.
what's
Be
that
happy to
you
keep
think
you
is a
posted
good idea?
on what kind of responses we're getting. Before and after.
So what Mark is saying, or what Mr. Little.
Can Mark speak,
is,
please?
Mhm.
He's about to
Actually,
say
what,
something.
basically, you're cutting me off, and that's not appropriate. So to sum this up is, we have not posted, Mark has not posted anything. So he put it in our agenda to review it. It's not currently posted. So the proposal is for us to hold on posting it until Mr. Little has more information or his request is, and you're saying about a week, Mr. Little?
I make a motion that we post it.
So once again, you're out of line. If we can try to stay.
I wasn't
in order.
finished to begin with earlier.
Mr. Little, so you're saying approximately a week to 2 weeks is when you think you'll have everything drafted and we can request this new employee?
We're going to post it within that time. Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
Okay,
already drafted.
so the question for our board is, do we want to proceed with having Mark post?
I make a motion that we proceed with Mark posting.
Support.
Okay. Guess we'll have to call for that question. One other thing,
There's a
Mark, do you happen to know the
Motion.
price of you posting this? Like, I know it's gonna be fees, but this Indeed that, do we have that price?
No, I do not.
Can we get a listing of where they were posted before? I'd like that too.
It was posted on the city's website. That's the only place it was posted, was on the city's website.
Really?
However, it was emailed to approximately 10 different entities.
Okay.
Directly. And if I may add, I think an important distinction here is that Mr. Little's funding source, NOAA, requires that he go through his solicitation. He has to in order to obtain the funding.
Mhm.
You don't have to at this point. You're not under any directive to do so. It's your choice whether you move forward or not.
Okay.
But he has to do it no matter what.
Right, and was going to, so I'd say we proceed, can we call for the question?
Okay, this is a question, the question is to direct me to post the RFQ/P on the various websites and to initiate the solicitation. And that was made by Adams and supported by Edwards. Warren?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes,
Kennard?
Yes.
Childs?
Yes,
Motion carries. We'll get that posted beginning tomorrow.
thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to our treasurer's report. And that
Before
is-
we move on, can we, if I may, Madam
Go ahead.
Chair, we were less of an individual that overlooked the applications. If we could revisit that process of the applications that come in. There were 3 people appointed to look them over. I think that anybody that wants to should be privy to, that sits on this authority.
And everybody's clear what Ms. Adams is talking about. We lost a gentleman on the committee, Michael. Mr.
David
Michael.
Shades.
Oh, yes, yes.
We have roughly 60 days before those will be due.
Mhm.
We'll have another meeting before then.
Okay,
And I think what you're suggesting is that a new subcommittee be
why does
established.
it even have to
or
be a sub?
Everybody be
We-
provided with them?
Yeah, we have an email. Everybody can just take a look and give their recommendation in the majority rule, just like any other vote.
One thing I'll call out is we actually met, because when you're talking about open dialogue, I think it gets difficult with, a million people emailing back and forth. So I think the actual in-person meeting was helpful. That's just my comment there.
And they can come forth.
Mr. Edwards.
Madam Chair, thank you. Sorry for this, back question. And so what we just voted on, was that the same thing we were talking about him waiting before we voted? Or was the vote on to go ahead and post it?
The polls.
We're posting ours. They're going to do theirs.
But your request was for us to hold it, or are we good? So the request was for us to hold it.
The request was for you to hold it, and the reason being that we just save you some money if we can come up with, you're basically posting.
How long has the planning commission been looking for somebody to fill
So-
this position?
Okay, so if we can have order, Mr. Edwards
I'm
has
sorry.
the floor.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
So that's what I was asking about, because if I'm waiting for a answer and then that answer gets interrupted, then I'm forgetting, okay, what is we initially talking about? And I thought about, wait a minute, that's not what needs to be questioned. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to rescind that, because it might not be possible, but I'm asking if we can, and I agree with the chair, if we can wait till that person gets through with his full statement and the answers, make it better for me. I don't know about everybody.
So am I understanding, Commissioner, are you saying that you were not clear on what you were voting on?
Exactly.
What's the chair?
So what I'm gonna do is try to clear this up. So what the question was, should we hold or should we proceed? I'm just gonna.
We voted.
So
Proceed.
basically, we were talking about this piece right here. And so we were saying, should we proceed or should we hold? But we've already voted to proceed.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm good with that. It's just my request for all of us. If we can wait for that, 'cause I'm good.
Ms. Kennard?
I want to be very clear. Once you have, several of the persons that is looked at for maybe that position, they will be interviewed. Okay, will they become before this body in person? Was that the statement that was made?
I'll go ahead and start. So what we did is we had a subcommittee. So a few months ago, we had a subcommittee. It was myself, Mr. Little, and Michael Davis Yates, who was a previous member. And what we did is we had a separate meeting. It was an in-person meeting, and we went over our comments on that. So essentially what Ms. Commissioner Adams is requesting is, I believe she's saying, versus having a subcommittee, can everyone, am I saying that correctly?
If they want.
Can everyone, if you want to participate,
Yes.
can everyone? And I just want to call out, when we voted on the subcommittee, anyone still could have wanted to, it wasn't like we said, we're doing tuition ABC. If you wanted to do it, you could have done it. And the people who volunteered were the ones that formed the subcommittee. So what Ms. Adams was saying,
Things
open
change.
up again to everyone
Yes.
to be on the committee.
So one other thing I want to know, you said Mr. Yates was,
He was a member, but unfortunately, before we met, he resigned.
so he didn't have any input.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on that before we move on?
So I'd like to ask a question, and that is now, if you're going to go ahead and post it and presumably receive some proposals from interested parties, and we, in parallel course, are advertising our position, and I might add, just for your information, the position description was put together by representatives from Eagle, DNR, U of M, all of the people on that thing. We've all reviewed it, and we put a position together to make sure that we've got what we need. And what we need is going to be far greater even than what you're going to be looking for. So if we find a good candidate that we're ready to go forward with, are you going to continue down the route of the proposals? Or are you going to consider the proposal that made of having a person work with both?
So here's my suggestion. So I want to remind everyone, based on basically what happened with our prior request. So with our prior request, we pretty much, I think it was 2, is that correct, Mark? We got 2 responses back. It was open for over 30 days. And as Mark had previously mentioned today, I just want to reiterate it. He sent it to 10 people that was qualified, like 10 firms. That's what they do. That's their expertise. So the situation was, we did not get people that wanted to do the role. Okay, we could sit here and waste an hour and talk about why they didn't apply, but no one applied. That's the bottom line. And the other 2 people that replied, we felt one was not qualified and not have Brownfield experience. The other did. They were out of Kalamazoo. And with the nature of how you guys see from witnessing this meeting, how the culture and the people talking out of turn, some people are not going to deal with that. Let's just keep it real. People go to other meetings and people talk in turn. It's ran like a well-oiled machine, and we're not at that level yet. Hopefully we will get there soon, but we're just not there. Some people are not going to deal with that. So based on what we discussed, that's why we didn't really have a great candidate, and we proposed myself to learn and train. That's where that came from. So what I want to call out is, we're doing that again, we're doing due diligence, but I don't feel 100% confident that the outcome with this 60 days is going to be significantly different. Does everyone get at least my point of view? So to answer Mr. Little's question, my recommendation would be, if you find someone, let's go. I don't care if it's 20 days, 30, 45. If we find a good candidate, we wouldn't want to let them go. We would want to go with that candidate that you find. And now I'll open it up for Ms. Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, because this is an authority in all the
Okay,
cities
let's go.
county.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, excuse me?
Thank you. I'm saying
You gave me the
have
floor? Okay, so it's just very interesting to me, ever since I've been down here, that people that interrupt can point out when they're being interrupted. I think that, the position that the planning commission is looking for, as the applications come in, and I hope and pray they do, once ours has started running, that you guys' applications will start coming in, and they can actually take a look at what we had. And basically doing what we're doing now, collaborating together.
When you say.
Does that make sense?
I'm not sure. When you say take a look at what you have, what do you mean?
In the form of applications and qualifications.
You're looking at a organization giving a proposal for part-time.
Not necessarily an organization. Not necessarily a consultant to consult and guide the ship of the Brownfield Authority. Mark started off at working with a firm, and I think it was a firm that actually he was either partnership with or his own firm, or he eventually went into his own firm. And he became solo along the way. Nothing changed. He still had the qualifications to guide this ship. And before it was the one that holds your position. See, I've been here long enough to know how things have been run and to see the attitude of many. And will not be disrespected either. So with that being said, I think that the vote has already gone forth and we don't have to spend an hour or half an hour or any longer on something that we've already sent forth.
Anyone else have anything before we move on? Mark, did you have anything?
And just a point of clarification, this isn't a position, Mr. Little's position is not a planning commission position.
No.
There was reference to planning commission a couple of times. It's not a planning
No.
commission position.
No, and if I may, I'll backtrack and clarify that no, it's not. It's just the planning commission that's doing all the planning and bringing this thing to fruition for the position. Am I right?
No, actually, it's a collaboration.
Well, collaboration,
All
yeah.
the
Okay,
different federal and state agencies.
Right.
Okay, is that everything? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to our treasurer's report.
Madam Chair, the financial reports from Time Moran for June were not available as of this meeting. It was explained to me that because we changed our meeting date and because of the holiday, they got a little bit behind. They apologized, and we'll be taking up that matter next month. However, you have a payables listing in front of you on page 8. There's only one item in that payables, and that is for the May accounting that was performed by Time Moran, which you have already received and reviewed. So we'd be looking for your approval to pay that $450 bill.
Second it, page 8.
Call for the question.
Adams,
yes.
Kennard,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes,
Warren,
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes,
Motion carries. Madam Chair, the next item is the 2023-24 proposed budgets on page 9 of your packet. This is a proposed budget. It does not require your action tonight. You can, however, if you choose to, you can approve it tonight. But you need to approve it sometime between now and your next meeting, which would be the second Thursday in August. What you have before you on page 9 is the year-to-date actuals through the end of May. And then you have what your budget was for 2022-23. And on the far right column, the one that's yellow in color, you have what's being proposed. We kept the revenue numbers roughly the same. The expense numbers were modified slightly to accommodate for $15,000 in travel expenditures should we choose, or should you choose rather, as a group to attend the Brownfield conference in Detroit. And I also inflated the advisor's fees to cover some sort of a transition period that's likely to occur within the next year during this budget year. But other than that, all the numbers are pretty close to being the same as what they were for last year.
Mark, I want to make sure I'm clear. Are you saying that we can approve it at the next meeting, or does it have to be prior to the next meeting?
Great question. It can be at the next meeting. I just didn't want to dump this on you today and expect you to feel uncomfortable about approving it. If you've reviewed it and you're comfortable with it, that's great. If you'd like more time, that's fine too.
I guess from the board, or you guys want to have more time or?
Just one question on the last conversation that the one to Detroit. I do remember seeing something on one email, but I couldn't remember if that was with Brownfield or with the city. So if I could get just a little info on that.
Mark, if you want to, or I don't know if it was Mark or Commissioner Adams who brought the conference to our attention. Commissioner Adams, do you want to fill everybody in on the conference? Is that something you can do?
I don't know anything about the
Okay,
conference.
so
other
Mark,
than-
were you?
I got you.
Excuse me, you called me and asked me a question,
You
I'm
said you
I'm
couldn't,
not
so-
finished.
Okay. You don't know anything about the conference?
I don't know anything about this conference, but Mark made mention of the conference and I had a question about it. Does this need to be approved prior to us going to the conference or making a decision to go?
If I could, so if Mark, if you don't mind, first we had a question from Mr. Edwards about, I don't know if you could give a quick synopsis of the conference.
Yeah, I
because
didn't
he
know.
was not here last week, so he's asking that, and then when that's complete, if you could answer Commissioner Adams.
Certainly. The EPA conference, Brownfield conference, which occurs about every 18 months, every 2 years. This year is being held on August 8th through 11th in Detroit. And that was discussed last month, and thus I inflated that section of the budget in the event that members choose to go there. To address Commissioner Adams' comments, yes, this segment of the budget would probably need to be approved so that we can then take the next step, and that is who's going, and how are we going to manage their stipends.
Right.
Thank you, Mayor.
If I may,
Yes, Commissioner Adams.
since this is no different than last year's or what have you, not a lot of difference, then I make a motion to accept the budget as is. And it's revisable along the way, is it not? I
Absolutely.
thought so.
I second it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be-
So we'll call for the question.
Kennard,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes,
Warren,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes,
Adams,
Yes.
motion carries.
all right.
Okay, so we have finished up the treasurer section. We're gonna move on to old business.
Madam Chair and members, we have one item under old business, and that was a request that you received last month to place the property located at 227 Territorial Road into your Brownfield plan. This property, I've got it on the screen up here, is located at the corner of Territorial Road and Fifth Street. It is the bottom yellow rectangle. It was formerly operated by the American Laundry Company years ago. It's a site of some extensive contamination. And the owner of that property, Thomas Henderson, was here last month explaining that he would like to have that in the plan for a couple of different reasons. First and primary, he would like to be able to use the presence of that property in a plan to leverage other local, state, and funding sources that he might have access to, whether that be EGLE or whether that be EPA, and or whether that might even be you as the Brownfield Authority. So you instructed me to prepare a Brownfield plan, which I've done. It's included within your packets, pages 10 through 29. The key elements of this plan are that I included two parcels. The one that is at the bottom that you see, the lower rectangle, and the contiguous property to the north, which is vacant. Contiguous property to the north is owned by a company named, I believe it's 248 4th Street LLC. I don't know who owns that company per se, but it is owned by another individual other than Mr. Henderson.
It's not Adams?
The reason that I included that property is because not only is it contiguous, but all indications from the EPA assessments that were performed on Mr. Henderson's property is that contamination flows to the north in the groundwater and probably exists beneath that vacant parcel also. So I thought it would make good sense to include both of those together. The plan, other critical elements of the plan are that while Mr. Henderson would like to access other funding sources, I wanted to put a placeholder in there in the event that he came back to you and asked for reimbursement of eligible expenses that he might incur, whether those are demolition-related expenses, assessment-related expenses, or cleanup, things that are allowable under Act 381. So I put a placeholder in there of $50,000. And when I do put a placeholder in there of that amount, and I put a corresponding taxable investment of say $100,000 or $200,000, which could very likely occur if Mr. Henderson moves forward with some sort of investment in that property, then there's plenty of time for reimbursement of those expenses. It makes sense from a cash flow standpoint. I say that we put $50,000 in there, but it doesn't mean that you're obligated to pay $50,000, a placeholder.
Right.
The only way that Mr. Henderson could ever access that $50,000 would be if he came back to you and entered into a reimbursement agreement, just like all your other developers, where you had the milestones of completion that he'd have to adhere to, the type of taxable investment, on and on and on. The plan could also be modified at a future date like all of your plans. If Mr. Henderson came back to you at some point in time, or some other developer, the 248 owner, for example, and said, we plan to make a big investment in this property, but we need more help than just $50,000. Well, you could listen to that request and you could amend this plan. You could recommend its amendment rather. City Commission would have to accept that recommendation and act upon it. Just like if you choose today to accept this plan, you're actually recommending it for City Commission approval. The next step would be for, I believe, the legislative committee to take this matter up. And the legislative committee would decide whether they wanted to move it up to the agenda for City Commission approval or rejection. So that's a summary of what you have in front of you right now and what the process is.
If I may.
Commissioner Adams.
So you mentioned several steps and several processes that I think we're moving back to prior to emergency management. And that's going back to the elected officials. So we could actually take that other empty parcel and include it in a brownfield plan. And if funding becomes available or a grant or something comes up, we can actually take it upon ourselves to clean that property up and have it prepared for the property owner. Or I mean, we can discuss more how that would work. But as far as me putting a vote forth today, it having to go through legislation, and legislation is ruled by an elected official as well as the co-chair. So do we vote now and not vote then, or both? Because I know it's different for the planning commission.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, you would vote now to either approve this plan as it's been presented to you or to reject it. If you vote to approve it, then it goes to the legislative committee, and they would then again have to vote. And a public hearing would be held, whether it's at the legislative committee level or whether it's city commission level. But city commission then ultimately would have to vote in favor of it.
Okay, one last question.
3 votes.
Okay, so my next question with another follow-up is, do we have, because I really haven't looked at the document in full, do we have a certain amount that he's bringing forth and how much length of time we're giving this developer back for reimbursement on their investment?
Madam Chair, if I may, I highlighted sections of your page 10. It's on page 10 of your packets. And I think the first paragraph or first highlighted section is probably the most important because it reads, Mr. Henderson plans for redevelopment of this property while presently undefined His plans are presently undefined, and he admitted that when he was here at your last meeting.
Yeah.
Are hampered by the presence of residual soil groundwater contamination. That's all been documented by the EPA. But I think that the following highlighted statement that suggests that the site's adaptive reuse and repurposing is considered to be of significant importance to the surrounding Arts District. This property, right down in the heart of the Arts District. The primary objective, therefore, of this plan is just to give him access and give you access to these other funding sources, which when you reach out to them, and Mr. Little will substantiate this, when you reach out to these other funding sources, they want to know, have you already put it in a plan? Are you already considering this a brownfield site? And we want to be able to say yes.
Yes.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you. Make a motion that we accept and move it forward.
Motion by Adams, seconded by Edwards. Childs,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Kennard,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, so that's the only thing on our agenda for old business. We don't have anything for new business, but is there any new business? Okay, new business, I'm sorry.
Member comments, I think, is where.
Okay, so member comments and Mr. Adams.
Okay, thank you. Ever since we've started working together, Mark, and over the years, it's been such a lengthy talk about training. Actually, the legislative meeting, we always get a long drawn out synopsis of training and the condition of Benton Harbor residents for those of us to try to look out for them. Well, elections have consequences and they matter. And anybody that want my vote, you're gonna work for it. And we rule in Lansing right now, all three branches. And we're getting ish done. We're getting some stuff done. And we have a terrific state representative that comes here often and asks us, as well as the residents, what we want, what would we like to see. He has actually made it possible to bring some local unions in to work together to start some type of training in construction. That somebody might somewhere along life's way get the feel of feeling like, well, I wonder what that shovel feel like picking up. It's been so long. If they don't see one, they probably wouldn't gain, that desire to try. God didn't give up on none of us. And how dare us, flesh and blood human beings, give up on anybody else? We need training. Because we have a place sitting down here at the edge of the city that has failed this community over and over and over and over again. Maybe a few have succeeded, slid through. But the data says totally otherwise, and it's been publicly stated. We have before us an opportunity to possibly help with that endeavor. And I've been looking at some properties with some people that I'm hoping that we, the Brownfield, would put in within a plan ourselves and start on some type of development ourselves for training. And there's, I think it's the old, is it Batson training?
Batson printing.
Batson, okay. I never worked there, but it's they don't build buildings like this anymore. And I know that there are 3 still existing. Now, the old YMCA might be one that has an armory as well. It was built with pure concrete for a reason. They're actually shelters as well. Well, I know the armory was built for shelter, for service members and people in the community. But these buildings are built with concrete and the structure of them are still sound. Do we allow them to just sit Or do we put them within a brownfield plan, the old Harold Palladium? These buildings have such great prospect of, I was looking at construction training when I went up and looked at some sites with Jesse in times past, and how they do the training for the brick and the block and the pouring of and filling the block and stuff with all the latest technology and stuff. It's perfect to work that type of stuff on concrete. And I'm just hoping that we can do something. Something if you could have a talk with those of the union, with Mr. Little, or, I mean, because there's some older folks that don't live down here in that high rise that would love to, you know, because if I had about 10 more in me, I'd be very interested. But yeah.
If I may, Commissioner, I just want to make sure that not only am I clear, but for anybody watching, so your proposal, you're asking if the Brownfield Authority could create a training program and utilize the Batson Armory or Harold Palladium building. Is that what I'm understanding? Or
No, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, ma'am. I'm requesting or asking if it's at all possible that the Brownfield Authority could take it upon itself to enter some type of development of our own to bring at least, I think I like the printing building better than the old Harold Palladium. But right now, and we don't need it to spear any further than it already is. We already know that the Salvation Army is right there. And when those guys leave there, they're hanging out at the old Harold Palladium. We can't have that downtown. We're not trying to create that type of space or place. But if we could do something to give somebody, even like them, because some of them look healthy enough to pick up a hammer, a brick, a block, put something in their sight that would give them an opportunity to turn their lives around and want something better than just hanging outside of a place with no hope. So that's what I'm asking. If we would just take a look at it and examine it to see if in fact we can do some type of development for the city, the community as a whole even. Because it could be a nice venue for a lot of great things. Go take a look.
Mark, if you're clear, can you comment?
Yeah, I can, and it's a complicated question, but the short answer is yes, you can do those things to some degree. You could acquire those buildings because they are likely brown sites for a variety of different reasons. They fit the category of a brownfield site. What I would suggest, however, because this question has come up from multiple members over many occasions over the years, is the next meeting, let me just put together a short one-page white paper memo that says what you can do with respect to acquiring property, developing property, owning property as a brownfield authority. And I think you'll find that answers all your questions and will give you some guidance when you go forward as to what you may or may not be able to do.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Evans.
And just for the record, I think I need to say this, but I think that the guy that actually showed us the place, they wanted 200 and something for it, and he said that if they could get an answer within the next 30 to 45 days, that they would drop 100,000. So I'm like, they want to see that building something resurrected in it, but if we could just,
For clarity, you're talking about the bats.
yeah. I don't know how much they wanted for the Harold Palladium, but
$349.
oh, hi.
Okay, did anyone else? Oh, sorry, Ms. Kennard.
Yes. I was listening to Commissioner Adams as she spoke. And it's been a real pressure on me because I have a very love for veterinary. And I know some time ago, it said, at least 25% of the jobs that come about here in any capacity that we want Benton Harbor people to have those jobs. As I look around now, I don't see too many of the Benton Harbor. If I see one, every once in a while, it's very rare. And I think we should have something in place to ensure that we have our Benton Harbor people. However we do it, it would be a good thing. If somehow or another, Brownfield, whoever, can get that back on course, and we make sure that these things happen. Because when we have a city developed and put together, plans and everything go together and put this city together, we should have a part in it, because we are a very vital part of the city. So I'd like to see more of my community involved in the redevelopment, planning, and all that is going on in the city. So somehow or another, we can work through the Brownfield and making sure that something happens in regards to that. I would love to see that. Because it really, we got young people that's coming on, and they see what is going on. Whether it's obvious that they're taking
Hello.
it in or not,
I'm in a
they
meeting.
are,
Let me
because
call
they
you
talk
back.
to me about it. And we have failed them in many ways. And that's why we see sometimes a lot of crime and other things, because they feel there's no hope. And we've got to pull our city back together by showing hope that will make our people, young people, have more respect for the city itself.
Is there any other comments on this topic?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
I don't know who, I'm gonna, Mr.
oh,
Little,
this a comment period?
Okay,
this
so
com-
on this topic.
No, I just want to make a comment. I was going to ask a question. When's the last time that Brownfield has sponsored some type of training? And how successful was it?
Well, it was a few years, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
it was a few years back,
Okay.
and since that time, amendments to the Brownfield statutes have occurred,
Oh.
which pretty much hamstrung our ability to participate in those events.
Okay. Okay.
We had actually come up with a great program to work with the schools,
Mm-hmm.
the high school, to
Mhm.
train for vocational purposes, but we had to pull out of that because the statute was modified.
Oh, okay.
We could provide, to be clear, we could, in theory, take a place like one of these buildings that Mr. Adams is referring to. We could acquire the building
Mm-hmm.
because it's a brown site and it's sitting there in a dilapidated, unused or underutilized position. We could do what was needed to stabilize that building, to create a place for training. But we can't do the training.
Mm-hmm.
We could lease it to someone, you could lease it to someone who might be a training entity.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
I think Commissioner Adams had some on the topic.
No, were you,
Yeah, I'm finished.
Ms. Denard, been waiting?
Well, actually, I had just a little way too, but
The
go
same?
ahead.
Okay, the one reason that I was so adamant about bringing up that, we had a job fair here, first of the year. And I went around because of my horticultural background. I wanted to see if there was something open, not that I wanted to, but just to see just how things is working about the landscaping. And they pointed me out one of the gentlemen, and he said that maybe it's somebody else. And I went around in a circle, ended up right back to him, one after another, sent me right back to him. So it seemed like it's more of a game that's being played, because I don't know of any of those people that got jobs from their job fair. If they did, it might have been just one token, if there was any. But these are the things that I trouble about, and I would like for the Brownfield, if they step up and everything, to be transparent and open and really work for the betterment of the community, because this Brownfield is supposed to be looking for the betterment of the welfare of developing the city of Benton Harbor. Am I right?
Our mission is to create taxable investment and job creation through the redevelopment of brownfield sites.
Right. Which this would fit in, wouldn't it?
So,
You gotta shoehorn it in any way you can, but it's gotta fit that mission.
and Ms. Kennard, I just want to clarify, so you're saying the job fair had nothing to do with the Brownfield?
No, it
right?
didn't.
Okay,
But the reason I brought it up, so many times it's a face that says one thing,
oh, I see.
and it really doesn't,
I see what you're saying,
Uh-huh.
it said training.
it doesn't.
Okay, so we'll go to Mr. Lewis, I know you've been waiting, Mr. Lewis.
I'd like to just share some information. We have the same objectives and goals, just different understanding of the elements. As your economic development director and also as a person who has spent 50 years in all of the components of this business, including having run a CETA program many years ago, including operating a facility that did training similar to what the school system had over here on Fair Avenue, and that I hope they'll have again. The situation you have here in Benton Harbor, as I said before, and I think I need to keep just saying it, your population is down to around 9,100 people. 36% of that 9,100 people are 19 years of age and under, but they're not in the workforce. 20% almost are senior citizens, 65 and up. They are not in the workforce. You've got about 14 to 18% of the middle group that are on some form of disability, be it physical, emotional, chemical dependency, or drugs. So it narrows it down to where there's a rather small number left that would make up a typical workforce. We still need to concentrate on developing a workforce and a training workforce. And where we've got to go to do that, and you kind of mentioned it the other night, that's why the school superintendent and I started to spend time together. Because it's the young kids coming out of school who are not yet on disability,
Or
who are not
or
yet
on their way to
leaving
Crystal
town,
Springs or
or
North
doing
Shore.
the other things,
Yeah.
that we need to concentrate on
Please.
preparing for opportunities that will be here. And right along with that, we've got to provide homes for them to live in once they get a job. We don't help ourselves too much to train people, get them a job, and they move away.
But at least they got money to do that.
Oh, well, that's true, but we're gonna do that for the whole part of the state, and we.
I mean, we train officers and they go somewhere else.
But, so anyway, I just mentioned that because we're going to be making a strong effort to collaborate with the school superintendent, the leadership in these charter schools that are handling some of our kids who are coming out and so forth, to make them aware of potential job opportunities at places like Davis and where Dawson just closed down, whatever comes in after that, hospitals, Whirlpool and the other places, and then to also focus on developing training opportunities for them after high school, and maybe even some while in high school. You may
And as well as
recall,
grade school.
you may recall a couple of years ago now, it's almost been, because time flies. I was talking to you about a teen tech center that would be, as a matter of fact, it was a Best Buy teen tech center that was going to be funded by Best Buy and a number of the high-tech companies and so forth. That concept is still alive. It's not dead. There are a number of things that we can do, but we've got to recognize where to focus our energies. Many of the people that we see who are not working there are reasons why they're not working, and there are reasons greater than just not having that money. That's all I'm trying to say to you.
So, I appreciate your comments, Mr. Little, and bringing the statistics. I wanted to kind of sum up, I'll let you speak in 1 second, Commissioner. I wanted to sum it up because I want to make sure when we walk away, we're walking away with exactly what Commissioner Adams and Ms. Kennard is saying. So if you want to go ahead with your final comment, Ms. Adams.
I just want to say this. The next time somebody does data on my people and they can separate housing to social security, to disability, let us also include the deaths of the young that are leaving here too soon. I've spoken to the superintendent and as well as the young lady, the chief administrator of yes. They are very aware, and we're working on some things of starting these children earlier on than just high school. Earlier on when it comes to training of any sort and we need to be utilizing every tool in the box. There's too many of us not to be focused on whatever we choose to focus on. But coming together in a common area and being able to agree to disagree. It's not a one person. Look, if we had had Manchester Bidwell going on 18 years ago, it probably wouldn't be as many that look like zombies walking around here. 18 years has passed. And we've lost so many young people. It is just pathetically sad that I will not sit back and not say anything and be silent or allow anybody else to silence me over what I know that my people need. I was one of those 3rd, 2nd, and 4th, and 5th graders that sat in school looking out the window, rather watching the birds chime, sing. I was outside creating because what was happening in the classroom did not pique my attention. We have to meet these children where they are. Everybody is not college material. Everybody may not even be secondary. Some entrepreneurship, but they need to be introduced to this stuff at an early age so they can find their path earlier in life. Because I didn't wake up one day and said, I want to be a drug addict or I want to go to prison. None of us do. And sometimes people change their path along life way. And we, government, needs to work for the people and not against the people and put avenues in place to where people can jump into any choice that they choose, including one of their seats. I'm done.
I wanted to throw something quick in. I have some good news. I think I talked about this briefly at our legislative committee, but I don't think a lot of people here know. But what I currently do for my employment is I do workforce development. And last year I was 6th through 8th. I'm going to be starting with 5th grade. And currently this summer we have culinary arts training. And we also have healthcare training. We're going to get youth CPR certified. We are working on looking for funding for Oculus. It's a virtual reality system that will allow a youth to learn how to change the oil in a car without even the car being there. It's really unique. Check blood pressure. I won't bore you with all 29 disciplines. I'm not saying this is the answer to everything, but I am saying it's a step in the right direction. And it is in Benton Harbor with the Benton Harbor youth. I have a few kids from St. Joe, a few from Bridgman, but the majority of my students are from Benton Harbor, and I had 110 students last school year.
And it's okay. You're the type of person that Manchester Bidwell will position for a $70,000 paycheck a year.
And then I want to go to Ms.
All right.
Kennard, then we're going to
Amen.
close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody been hearing me though.
So we're going to let Ms.
I've been
Kennard
hearing.
make a comment. And then we're
No.
One of the things that I want to bring to your attention, I've worked 26 years in the Benton Harbor area school system and worked and I observed the children many times. Many times I stood and I prayed And I asked God, I said, what can I do, Lord, to make it better for these children? I saw them dismantle the tech center and the skills center, where children were learning how to. They won competition after competition
Yeah.
in automobile mechanics. And they was training young ladies and men for nurses' aides. They operated a lathe machine. We got them trained for operating a greenhouse in the agri-science program. And after that, after I retired, I wanted to stay in connection with this youth. That's why I first started Children's Garden. If you watch the news now, every time you look up, they're having recalls on the food.
Right.
Because people are experimenting
Right.
and rushing up different types of, putting different things into the food source that is harming the human body. We've got to start thinking for ourselves and put together, as I like what she's doing, programs we can do ourselves. We're not ignorant people. We're intelligent people. So we can think and try to put together programs and things for our youth to give them direction. So many of them don't get it at home. But we that are working in certain capacities can help these children want to become entrepreneurs. All they need is sometimes someone to take out time, listen to them, and then sometimes interject different ideas that might put them on a course that they might really do well. So that's why I think that it's very important people here, but we've got to make things available for these children. Let them know that we really care about it. Invest in them. And that's what we haven't done, is investing in ourselves.
Yes,
So
sir.
we've got to start doing investing in ourselves. And that's paying attention to
Did you get
our
my
next
tips?
generations that are coming forward. So that's why I'm so adamant about getting some positive
Yeah,
training
99.
in here for our children. And for our young people that maybe didn't graduate, some of those young people can be helped out.
Yeah,
Also.
I got 2 more
Thank you.
coming in
So I'm
tomorrow.
gonna just quickly sum this up so we can
I have some
move
more
on. I wanna make
information
sure you guys
And
hear
again,
what I'm saying,
I
if
gotta
I'm not
get it
accurate
together.
on anything, just chime in. So
Yeah,
the question
Best
was, can
Western.
Brownfield acquire some buildings?
And,
Commissioner Adams mentioned a couple of
yeah,
different
they're gonna,
options, but I think she'd like to back to
the
printing.
sales,
And then,
the salesperson's supposed
Mark
to
is
call
going
me
to
back.
come back with a document just
They're
explaining
gonna
how
call
we
me
can
back tomorrow.
acquire different properties.
Okay,
What Mark has mentioned is we
Okay,
can acquire
very
the
good.
property, but we cannot do, we
take care.
as the Brownfield
I'm
Authority
in this
cannot be
meeting
involved
right
in the
now.
training. So I think the homework would be
Okay.
is, if we get the Brownfield to do their piece,
Maybe
who
I
is
should
gonna
cut
do the
my phone
training?
off.
And that's, you guys can, we can come back, you guys can come back with ideas later, but I guess that would be the homework, is the Brownfield will work on the piece of acquiring the property. Is that correct? Does everyone agree with my understanding of what we're talking about? Okay, I think we can move on unless there were other, okay.
Adjourn.
Was there any other member, I'm sorry, we were on member comments, so we got through Commissioner Adams' comment. Was there any other member comments?
No, I just had the question. They answered my question.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, so at this point, we should be able to move to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to the meeting adjourned.
Second,
Voted.
Thank you, guys.
all the time.
Why? Why?
If maybe the word, maybe the word.
Say what? Oh. Whoa. Oh, on the one that gets. Wow.
Easy for you, right?
It might be some kids are,
All right, then.
Shut her down.
So how you been? How brother Adam doing?
I don't have a clue.
I'm talking about your husband.
I don't know.